Well, thanks for joining me today for this discussion about how project managers need to grow professionally in order for them to serve the value delivery expectations of their organizations. You are actually getting a preview of this research study. The report has not even been finalized and won't be released for a week or so. Usually I provide webinar attendees with a copy of the research report or a link to it, but that won't be possible today for that reason. So look for an email sometime in April from Preem Solutions to view the final data and the full research report. So a related item, here's a confession. At the time I sent Great IT Pro the title and description for this webinar, I had not even written the questions yet for the survey. However, I knew what we wanted to research and that I should have data back by March, so I just made something up. Lucky for me, the findings did in fact support the thesis described in my title. Higher order consultative skills over and above the fundamentals of project management do in fact improve organizational performance, agility, and value delivery. So how did we decide to do a study of this type? Our subject matter experts for this study were experienced, credentialed, strategic program managers with many years of experience, and they are the ones who work closely with our clients and mentor the project management consultants who are tasked with actually carrying out projects and programs on our client sites. And they were worried because they had seen a trend that some of the consultants that we placed, despite having good credentials and a lot of experience, did not seem to be living up to the client's expectations. And so at the enterprise project management office level, clients were needing to see project managers who also had superior knowledge of the industry and the marketplace, tremendous communication skills, and the ability to think strategically, as well as a knack for working with others to solve complex problems. For a good project manager, in other words, to be a great consultant, he or she needed to have a range of higher order skills that we don't usually think of as being project management. Now, you may not want to be a consultant. That's fine. But if you are going to work up and down the organization with everyone from executives to back office staff, and if you are going to deal with external stakeholders like customers and the community, you are going to have consultative skills. Today, we'll look at what participants in the study identified as the most important of those skills. You can use these study findings to do some soul searching about whether your abilities in these areas are up to par. And although this is not specifically stated in the study, our focus on these higher order strategic and consultative skills comes not a moment too soon for the project management profession. These are the types of skills that will not be easily replaced even by generative artificial intelligence. Anytime you are faced with a choice between mastering a skill that involves data manipulation or number crunching and skills that involve listening and grasping complex human group dynamics, you should choose the second type of skill because the first one can and will be done better by a machine, either now or in the very near future. Okay, so let's just talk for a few minutes about the study methodology, because I always find it's helpful to begin any research presentation by explaining how we derived at the statistics. I don't want you to be thinking to yourself, how does she know that the whole time I'm talking? So I'm going to tell you how I know this. All our studies begin with an extensive review of the literature, looking at a wide variety of sources to determine what practices are commonly in use or recommended. So we started for this study with PMI's definitions of the power skills. Now, I'm not crazy about that terminology because I think that a lot of people, when they think of power over others or power over circumstances. And a lot of times we don't have that power. We only have the power to change our own behavior or to change our own responses to situations and others' behavior. So I like to think of those more so as leadership skills, but be that as it may. We started with PMI's definitions of those power skills. And then we added skills that were flagged by the SMEs within our company for this study. They reviewed all the questions multiple times and refined them. Then for each of the topic areas, and there were several, from skills that contribute to, from the power skills to skills that contribute to organizational agility and communication and human relations skills. But for each of these topic areas, we propose a set of practices, and we ask the study respondents to score themselves on each practice on a Likert scale, that is from 1 to 5, with 5 being used to a great extent, and 1, of course, not using that practice at all. So at this point of data collection, we know what practices are most and least used by the study group, but are they best practices? For that, we need to ask more questions. So here's how we determine the high performers. A separate section of the study asked participants to rate their organization, not the PMO or their department, but the organization as a whole, on these 10 organizational performance measures. So I'm going to read these 10 out, and as I go down the list, you might want to just jot down a score from 1 to 5, with 1 being, no, we don't do that. That doesn't happen at all, to 5 meaning, yes, this is true in my for my organization to a great extent. Okay, are projects aligned with strategic goals? Do projects deliver value to the organization? Are project stakeholders satisfied? Do projects achieve an agreed upon quality of delivery? Are the benefits anticipated from the projects realized? Are the projects on budget? Are they on schedule? Are changing priorities effectively managed? Are project team members satisfied? And are project resources optimally allocated? So if you went down with me and you jotted a score, you add those up and divide by 10, that will give you your organizational performance score. That is done by us in the study for each participant, and then those scores are averaged. We then group them. We take the top 25% by the scores, and those are termed our high performers. The bottom 25% are low performers. We also look at the average across all the performers, across all the companies in performance. So then this tells us what best practices are. They are the practices most in use by the high-performing organizations. So just to summarize the methodology, companies in the study score themselves on a wide variety of practices, plus they score their organizational performance. We then cross-tabulate the scores on performance with the practices. This tells us which practices are most in use by high-performing organizations, and it also can tell us what low performers may be doing wrong. So that is the methodology. Now let's leap into the findings. Just as we saw between the 6th edition of the PMBOK and the 7th edition, we saw a major conceptual leap. The difference between lists of technical skills and process mastery that characterized project management in the past, and the higher order skills we inquired about in the study, also a big leap. And the two things are similar in a lot of ways. These are leaps that are driven by a changing marketplace for project managers and project management. We used to say that project management was a balance between art and science, with the science being represented by things like scheduling, cost estimation, earned value analysis, and risk analysis. You can see where I'm heading with this, right? Because most, if not all,